After 8 tours of Afghanistan, being wounded multiple times and 3 decades on the front line of modern warfare, former British Colonel Ash Alexander Cooper MBE knows what real resilience costs. His new book, Mindful Soldier, isn't about platitudes or breathing apps. It's about surviving trauma, leading under pressure, and learning lessons to make yourself into the best version of yourself. And the book is part autobiography and part self-help guide. Good afternoon, Ash.
Good afternoon.
So I really enjoyed your book. Last night I was reading it. Did you ever work out what that animal was that sat on you in the jungle? Because honestly, I was telling my wife this story this morning. I was like, wait, what could it have been in the jungle? Will you explain the story and then let's try and work out what that animal was?
Well, I don't want to be a complete plot spoiler, but essentially when you're operating in the jungle in training or for real, you tend not to try and lie on the floor or spend much time on the floor if you can help it, because there are things that will bite you and sting you and everything else. So yeah. You do it infrequently, but on this one occasion we were doing a tactical assault for some training exercises. And we had to spend the night on the floor, and I woke up in the middle of the night, pitch black, because you can't see anything in the jungle when it gets dark. And something warm and heavy was lying on my stomach. And honestly, to this day, I still have no idea what it was. It smelt pretty musky, which I'm hoping and think was the animal rather than me. But no, it was terrifying. And I didn't want to move or breathe because I didn't know if its face, if it had, if it had big teeth and was facing me, or if it's even more horrendous at the other end. It got scared.
In your book, you're saying it can't be a snake because it was warmer than that. I was trying to think what it could be in Belize. I was in Belize years ago and spent a couple of years there, so I'm kind of familiar with the jungle. Could it have been a tapir? Was that too big?
Honestly, don't know. I mean, I don't know. It could have been. Who knows? But thankfully, it didn't bite or
terrifying
or do anything horrible.
Terrifying. Reading your book, there's so much that is terrifying in it. You did 8 tours of Afghanistan. What does that level of repeated exposure do to a person over time? What did it do to you?
It's a great question. I mean, clearly, everybody is impacted by trauma and stress in different ways. And because of some other things we cover in the book, including my own childhood trauma, you build resilience over time. And unfortunately, the challenges for those who haven't really gone through anything tough in their lives, the first time you face something really challenging or scary, you don't necessarily have enough resilience to know how to get through it. In my case, over my lifetime, as I've now learned, I've obviously built up a degree of resilience, which has allowed me to kind of just get through things. And you'll, as people will read in the book, there's some fairly extreme traumatic experiences, both at work and outside of work. So for me, honestly, my military service was, clearly horrendous to see friends and colleagues killed and wounded. And, I've been shot multiple times, blown up a few times, a couple of helicopter crashes, and suicide bomber tried to kill me once on my birthday, which was kind. All those things clearly do have an impact, but for me personally, I'm very, very fortunate that they didn't impact me in a way that meant that I was really sort of taken out of the game or suffered. And that's partly why I wrote the book. This is not about me. There are my stories in there, but it's not about or for me. I want to help as much as I can anyone who may be struggling, not just in uniform, either serving or veterans, but anybody who struggles with some of the themes we talk about in the book, throughout the course of their lives, because we all face challenge, whether it's imposter syndrome, fear of failure, building up your own resilience and tackling uncertainty, loss, grief, that kind of stuff. We cover many, many things. And because we partner with Dr. Jess Miller, who's a world-renowned neuropsychologist, friend of mine, takes my ramblings and tries to make sense of them, to explain to people in very simple to understand terms what's actually going on in the brain, and give some really useful tips and tricks and practical exercises to help people get through those things they may be facing.
Yeah, your book starts with you getting shot in an ambush, and in your book you pretty much turn every situation into a kind of teachable moment. What did you learn from that experience? Because I thought you were really tough on yourself. You kept on saying, I should have been better.
But we are. I mean, it was so shocking. It was the first big sort of enemy engagement, I suppose, where it all went horrendously wrong. I mean, I've been shot at previously in different theatres, but this was the first time where it really sort of hit home, literally as well as metaphorically. So as the junior commander on the ground, to have suddenly found yourself in an ambush, with a swarm of bees, as I describe it in the book, hitting you, and I was shot several times and hit with some grenades, as were my teammates. my brain just didn't process what was happening fast enough, because it was the first time I'd seen that thing. Which is why in the military, so much emphasis is placed on training in as real situations as you can, make it feel real, because when the real thing does happen, you need to have that muscle memory.
Yeah.
And for me, in that very first moment, yes, I was tough on myself because I just didn't feel like I was keeping up. My brain couldn't keep up and process. Whereas only a few years later, having many more similar experiences under my belt, for me, time slowed down. It was the opposite. I felt I had all the time in the world to make decisions, and others in my teams, or locals, Afghans or others, who were looking to me, saying, what are we going to do? I felt that I was in the right place at the right time because I had built up that resilience and experience to know what to do.
Yeah. In the book, you did some home surgery in your kitchen, and you got some vodka.
Good bits of need to make.
You got a kitchen knife to try and get this bit of shrapnel out of your leg. I mean, that doesn't sound like a very good idea. Are you sure you should be handing out self-help advice to other people? Because that seems like an idiotic thing to do.
It was absolutely an idiotic thing to do, and please do not try this at home. It was just one of those things that I'd had a few drinks, and the shrapnel was, it felt like it was really close to the surface, and I thought it was just going to be a simple nick and I could just get it out. It didn't work out like that. So that's why the doctor, when I went to get some professional help, let's say the next day, to clean up my mess, he stitched me up without anaesthetic to make a point. Like, this is not your job, this is my job.
Yeah.
So don't try this at home.
Yeah, home surgery, bad. Ash, just stay there, will you? Let's put a record on. We'll chat more after this. I'm with former British Colonel Ash Alexander Cooper, OBE, talking about his new book, Mindful Soldier, which is part autobiography and part self-help guide. The book focuses on Ash's extraordinary life and the resilience lessons he's learnt along the way. And Ash, you were wounded multiple times. How does being physically injured change your mindset compared to psychological wounds?
And I feel extremely fortunate that, although I am technically disabled now as a result of the number of injuries, not just being shot, but from, I've got frost damaged fingers and toes and snapped joints and a few other things. I can't feel my left leg above the knee because of another incident. All of those things are irritating, chronically irritating to me day to day, but I've got so many other friends who are in much worse situations, friends who've been paralyzed, from the chest down, others who've lost multiple limbs. And so I'm always not comparing myself, but thinking that it's always worse for somebody else. So I try not to complain and try and turn my disabilities into something very positive and look to others who are incredibly inspirational.
In the book as well, you're very honest about your kind of childhood. You spoke about your dad. I found that stuff really moving. And I was reading it to my wife. I was going, listen to this. And it was you were talking about your dad, who was a drunk, which you say in the book, and you kind of hearing the car pull up at night, not then knowing what's going to happen when he arrives, hearing the car door and all of those kind of triggers, and that was really powerful. All of that. I cannot believe what that must have been like for you growing up.
Well, again, there are many people who are in far worse situations than we experienced, although it was pretty grim for us at the time. But those kind of evocative sounds and memories, I'd actually forgotten that particular memory. My sister reminded me of it, and then it suddenly came flooding back. I just maybe compartmentalized it subconsciously, but it was actually it wasn't the not knowing what was going to happen. It was knowing that we were about to get screamed at and abused, a number of minutes or hours later, and it was that sort of anticipation of the dropping of the car key or the keys at the front door, trying to get in, and then just wondering how long it would take before we were summoned. So yeah, not great, but again, there are many others in worse situations than we were, and we came through it. So.
Are you more resilient because you think you've experienced that? You knew that you could get through pretty much anything because that was so tough?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot about myself, I think, in writing the book. I didn't do it. I'm an accidental author, I probably should say. I'd never planned to write a book. I was kind of bullied into it by friends and family and clients and others. But they said this could be really helpful. So I thought, okay, if you think it really could help people, then I'll do it. And then I'm giving all the money away, as I think to veterans charities. So I'm not keeping a penny of it because it's not for me. It was only really chatting with Jess in the course of her contributions to the book that we kind of unpicked and unpacked some of the cumulative nature of trauma and the building of resilience over time. Yeah. And sort of I've recognized more about those early things that, back in the 70s and 80s, we just got on with it. Nobody talked about how they were feeling, did they?
Of course.
But I think now in hindsight, those things absolutely were stepping stones for me, being more independent, not relying on people who would invariably let me down in my early years. And that's made me the kind of person that I am today, always trying to do more and feeling like there's never enough time to help people and do more. I feel this sort of constant pressure, which is completely self-induced. It's my fault. But I think it probably does stem from those very early experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I get from the pages, I get like, is constant self-improvement also a little exhausting? I mean, it sounds like look, we all want to learn all the time, but I'm like, wow, have a day off. You're just learning so much all the time.
Maybe that's misleading. I mean, I'm either a million miles an hour or I'm at zero. I don't really do a lot in between. So I do like to sit, and read and have a nice cup of coffee and slow down sometimes. But I also, I'm more inclined to be doing more than less, which is probably more exhausting for people around me than it is me.
Brilliant. Well, good luck with book launch day today. It's out now. It's called Mindful Soldier. Thank you very much, Ash.